You on?
Yes.
All right, so today I'll be talking about Windows Server Core and automating defenses. So make sure you fill out the attendance, please. So for this presentation, I'll have a VApp that consists of two machines, Windows Server Core 2016 and Windows Server GUI 2016. The Windows GUI machine is the domain controller, and the 2016 is connected to that domain. They're not connected to the internet, but they do have a private network shared between them so that way they can connect to each other. They're made from the same ISO, but the only difference you can see at the bottom here is that the Windows GUI has this desktop experience selected, but the core has the standard one selected. When you're actually setting up from an ISO, Windows has this first one selected by default. By default, it doesn't want you to have a GUI, which is, unless you're from Linux, is a terrible thing. Like who doesn't like GUIs? All right, so what is Server Core? Server Core is basically everything that Windows Server Desktop Experience has, except it's only the command prompt and PowerShell. So you lose a lot of the code base that it comes with it. So it makes it So the reason you would have a Server Core is it would be it's faster, reduces attack surface, less RAM required, less storage, consumes less power, and no Cortana, because everybody knows Cortana is just absolute garbage. So what makes it faster is it doesn't have to load up that whole GUI, which is a lot of time compared to like just having the code run itself. And like a GUI is just a very slow part of the system. It bogs down everything. In my testing, it roughly doubled the size of the Windows from like 7 gigabytes with no GUI to 14, which is just completely unacceptable. Like, come on. And when it booted, it was also still like half the time. So the way it reduces the attack surface is it basically doesn't have to load as much code to just make it run like bare bones. You don't need all these extra services that aren't really contributing to what your need is, but you need it just to be able to set it up and configure the machine. And why I hate Cortana is Cortana's garbage. It's always popping up. It's like, oh, hey, you want me to steal your information so I can sell it and just give you more ads? Like, not really. So how do you go about configuring something that doesn't have a GUI? Well, you have a couple options. There's Powershell Remoting, which is basically SSH in a way, but it connects to you. It's kind of like a tmux / SSH kind of thing where you can just log into a terminal and just start changing settings and running commands natively. You could use remote desktop. I didn't configure it in this environment, but I mean, because there's not really a reason to, because why would you remote desktop into something that doesn't even have a desktop? Doesn't really make much sense. And there's also Windows Remote Management, which is the preferred method of controlling it because it gives you that GUI on a remote server, but it leaves the server that you have everything running on less insecure. So, user management, if we go to the VApp, we can load up Windows GUI, remote console, wait for it to load, hopefully it's booted. Feel free to follow along, you guys have the VApps. I don't know what the name is. Shane, what did you name him?
DW301.
Oh, okay. What he said. So, I gotta wait for it to load up because it's rebooted apparently. But so I'm just demonstrating the Windows remote management functions of these Windows Server from a GUI to a core. But this doesn't have to be exclusively to a core. It could just be to any remote machine that or any Windows that has remote management set up. and that include like configuring services, setting up features, removing features, setting services. So you can just basically do everything just from one machine. You can also run PowerShell scripts on a whole domain at a time, which is really nice. I'll be going over all those things later. So once we get the server manager open, we can go to all. All right, no, that's later. So instead, we got to right click this Windows button, go to Run, go to mmc.exe. That's just the Microsoft Management Console. Basically, it lets you add snap-ins whenever you want. Oh, a whole lot. Like it's basically like all the administrative tools in one place. So you just File, Add, Remove Snap-in. Wait for it to load. Scroll all the way like halfway down. You want to click Local Users and Groups. So double click that. From here, you'll have to hit another computer because we want to remotely control the server. So I have it. So we go to Browse. I have it named Server. So then we can hit OK, I believe. Yep. Finish. All right, so you should be able to see it right here. Hit OK. Now we have it in our console folders. Open, expand this. So we go to Users. Now we should be able to see all the users that are on the server core. If we wanted to, we could right-click, add a new user, name it DSU, password 1bang, password 1bang. Oh, don't want to change the password. Great. So if we didn't get any errors, that's a good sign. So now we should be able to log into the Core 2016 as DSU if everything went to plan. Press Control Delete to unlock. Enter credentials for DSU. Sweet. Type in your password, and we're logged in as DSU. So that worked out just fine. So I'll show you other options that you can configure with the MMC. So if you wanted to, you could go back to the GUI. Wait for it to load. So we can go back to this file, add or remove snap-in. Now let's go for computer management. Oh, not that one. See what I mean? This GUI is so slow, and Windows Core is so much faster comparatively. So computer management, another computer, and server. Sweet, that's in. Now we can expand computer management, and we'll be able to see you can see the event logs, which if you had a bunch of machines running your network, you probably wouldn't be checking each server manually for event logs. You'll probably have like a pool of one server collecting event logs, which is a story for another day. I have to set that up. You could configure shared folders. I don't know why you would do this for like a domain, but you could. This is another place you can set up local users and groups. It's kind of like the same thing, but that's more specific for only local users and groups, where this is everything. If you want to see how, I believe you can see how full your storage might be here. But nope, guess not. It lied to me. Service applications, you can enable and disable services. Your loads. Probably a good idea to go through this and make sure you don't have like telnet enabled. There's something awful, or Samba if you don't need it. Like, there's a lot of random services that you probably don't need. All right. That's all I'm going to go over for the management console. So how do you go about adding remote roles and features? All right. So if you have Server Manager open, you can go to All Servers, and you should be able to see the server right here with the IP address. So I can also demonstrate how to add this because it's not here by default. You got to go to Manage, whatever it loads, Add Servers, and then you can go to DNS and just type in the IP address or the computer name, and you'll be able to see it pop up. Hopefully, where's this one? Okay, I lied. You have to use Active Directory. You type in the name of the machine, which is something you have to configure yourself. All right, so now we can go to Server, right-click, Add roles or features. You got to be kidding me. Because it rebooted, it's just not happy. As expected. All right, guess I'll demonstrate the Windows PowerShell instead.
Wow, test your setup much?
Hey, I worked until someone shut it down to deploy it. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
Someone's
I'm
over here. He's trying to throw me under the bus here. All right, so domain PowerShell scripts. Now we got to, okay. So if you hit enter a couple times, sometimes it'll fix it, but so you can see this is a lot different than what a normal PowerShell looks like. Or not a lot, but it has this whole, your destination basically. So this is like, you can tell you're connected to server.core.local. And if on a normal PowerShell, it's just this. So if we wanted to run remote commands, our remote scripts, what we have to do is use this invoke command. So what this does is you select the list of names that you want. In this case, we're selecting the server machine and the Active Directory. So then you have the file path to your script. So I can demonstrate this. Invoke command dash computer name server AD dash file path, then dot backslash stats dot ps1. And if everything works, nope. Oh, I know why. Yep. So I'm in the wrong PowerShell because the script is on my host, not on the remote host. Because this is a script to scan the all of the servers, so I have to leave that and actually go to a regular PowerShell. Server loads. All right, there we go. PowerShell administrator. Now we can run that command again. All right, this should work better. What? Oh, it's in the wrong directory. This is why? Okay. It is not a fan of me today, but every other time I started up, it was in the right directory. But it's okay. So you have to go to C/, I believe, users, and then from here we can go to administrator / all right, that'll be it, hopefully. All right, yep. So we invoked the command, computer name, server Active Directory, file path, and as you see, it butchered the output. So what normally happens when it runs is it runs these side by side. So you normally output server and the uptime and the file size. So this is kind of a script I whipped up before the presentation. So if we wanted to see what this looks like, we could hopefully actually open up File Explorer and just open up stats.ps1. So basically what it does is it prints the host name and it writes output of the uptime in days, and it uses this fancy line that I stole / wrote. So it basically does is it subtracts the current date by when the last boot time was, and then it rounds it up so that way it's just 0.0 whatever how many how much time, but since it's been up for less than an hour, it looks like it's not going to be a 1, obviously, because it's not been up for much time at all. If it was a day, it'd just be 1.0, and it would increase from there, obviously. And this last one is the one that I completely stole, but what it basically does is it gives you all the drives on the system. It shows you how big they are in gigabytes, how much free space is remaining, and it calculates the percent left on the drive, which would be important. If you had this running like every once in a while and you'd look at it, you'd be a little concerned if one of your servers was running low on storage. That's something you'd want to like check into and see why it was doing that. Usually, when this runs, it runs them all in a group, and it would run it for each server. So I'm kind of confused to why it just like stacked them up like this. Okay, there we go. It was just lagging, I guess, because now when I run it, it ran it correctly, so that's good. I have another example one. Oh, I know it. So it's called it's in the administrator folder. It's called test.ps1. When you run it, it basically runs ipconfig on these two machines, which the purpose of this is just to demonstrate that you can run command prompt commands on all the PowerShell on all the systems at once through PowerShell, which is really nice. So you get all the IPs, and just if you want to, you can label them with host name. But I just wanted to get the IPs of the machines so we knew them. Let's see if it's still broken. Okay, sweet. So now we can go back. So service management and roles. So we're going to add IIS to just demonstrate that we can add services remotely. So we can open up Internet Explorer. 192.168.2 is the IP of the core. We shouldn't get anything because it's not enabled yet, so we got to go do that right now. So to enable IIS, we have to right-click on server under all servers, add roles and features. All right, we can just skip through this. Next, installation type, role-based. Next. And then select the server. We want to make sure we have the server.core.local selected, which would be the .2 address. And we can select web server IIS. Click. Next. Next. Just keep skipping through it. We shouldn't need to change anything else. Install. Should only take a couple minutes. How's your guys' day going so far?
Good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Not too shabby. What was the highlight of your day, Shane?
Waking up. It's all downhill from there.
It was all downhill. All right, understandable. How about you, Galen? What was the highlight of your day? How's it going?
Good question. I went to the lake.
It's a little cold to go to the lake, isn't it?
Yeah, kinda.
Did you swim, or are you just like fishing, or just walking around?
Walked around and took some pictures.
Nice. That's cool.
How about yourself, Austin? Name the top 43 things you did today.
There's 12 slides, so those are all up there.
Epic.
I think I got Girl Scout cookies today. That's another couple things. Got food. That's basically it.
What flavor Girl Scout cookies?
I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's like Tagalog.
The
Tagalong?
Good job,
Tagalog?
Austin.
Close
Tagalog.
enough.
Yeah, 'cause you missed them in class.
Psh, it's fine. All right. By now it should be done installing, hopefully. So we can close. We can go back to our Internet Explorer. And if it refresh it, and if it doesn't, it works. Perfect. So we now demonstrated that you can remotely install services on machines. All right. So moving on to Next slide. Okay, so we went over domain PowerShell scripts already. All right, PowerShell mastery tips. So my suggestions for PowerShell is make sure you use things like what if. What if. So what if does is like a flag on a lot of commands, and it'll basically show you if it will break something or if it'll error it out. So it does it in a way where it doesn't change anything, but it'll tell you if you typed it wrong. So I can demonstrate that with this command: get local user, set local user password, read, post. All right. So what this command does is it will get all the local users from PowerShell. Then it'll pass them into set local user with this read host flag. So what this basically does is it has a pop-up box. It'll be like, all right, what's the new password? Put it to it, and it'll change all the user passwords to what you entered in. Of course, you don't know if this will work or not, which is why you should use the what if flag, because you don't want to accidentally change all the users to something or do something that the command doesn't actually work and it just breaks everything. Like if it was supposed to delete some files, but you just try it out and it accidentally deleted all the files because you flipped around your matching. Like if you accidentally matched all instead of matched some things, if that makes any sense. So we have this what if flag, and it'll be like, okay, now if you run it, it won't actually change anything, but it'll tell you what it did in the end. So,
I think you need to type your password right.
yeah. Ta-da. So there's the what if performing the operation modify local user on each of the targets that it did it to. Well, of course, this would have broken the machine because you shouldn't modify a password for this and this, I believe. Because if you do, services can't use it, and Windows does not like it when services can't do things. So another thing about, I missed something about like the PowerShell remote PowerShell scripts, is it's very powerful if it falls into the wrong hands. So if you just like accidentally have it like someone is able to log into your administrator account, they could theoretically run a PowerShell script on every single one of your systems without having access or like having to do it manually, and they could be on an instant, and you couldn't have even known that they did it unless you're paying attention. So, any questions?
I have two questions. Number one, would you recommend any remediation for preventing the red team from abusing your domain trust to just obliterate your network?
Just don't use domains.
Okay, epic. Second question. So you had those like 40 character line things to get the uptime and the disk space, where on Linux they're one command, one word each. So what hobbies would you pick up if you switched to Linux admin?
I'd never use Windows again. I'll tell you what.
With all your extra free time.
I'd be writing cool scripts for Linux, but everything's one line in Linux, so that's what PowerShell's for. Because like it's too easy in Linux. Like that's why you gotta write in command prompt. You get like way more fun commands like this. Like, doesn't this like make a whole lot of sense?
Right, you don't feel like you earned it on Bash. Just too simple.
Exactly. Too simple. You're over here using your cuts and delimiters. Did I answer your question?
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much.
All right. Is that it? Anyone else? All right. That's it. Well, that's it all I got.